Third down and 20.
Frank, what are we talking about with J.K. Dobbins, us first consensus?
So, something I found very interesting when looking at trade calculators as well is that we are either lower or on consensus for every single rookie running back aside from J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins is the one running back that we are higher on than consensus. Take that how you will. To me, if I'm a J.K. Dobbins owner, that means I'm not selling. And if I'm a guy that can pick up J.K. Dobbins at a fair price, it's going to be tough with how much hype he's getting. But to me, J.K. Dobbins seems like one of those guys that actually is worth the hype.
I think what's interesting about us is, not to get too in deep into us and like what our thinking is, but right, like I think other than maybe Frank, I'm probably the biggest Jonathan Taylor believer in our league, and I'm like definitely the biggest DeAndre Swift believer in our league, and even I don't like love them being ranked as RB2 and 5. Like I'm like, oh, that's good for me, like having them ranked so high. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, and if I'm the biggest believer, like I just think that means rookie hype has really, really taken over consensus and everyone else. So if you have one of those guys pivoting to someone else that, might be undervalued plus another piece, plus another draft pick or something, I don't think that's out of the question. I don't think that'd be a bad move if you want to move a DeAndre Swift for a cool wide receiver plus something. Like, definitely something that I'd be looking into. Anything else you guys want to add about the rookies before we get on to some veterans?
I do want to talk about Jonathan Taylor because, I've been a huge Jonathan Taylor fan. Before the podcast started, I was saying to our league mates, some of my buddies had 101, and I was saying, listen, I'm taking Jonathan Taylor, even in a Superflex league, over Joe Burrow. I like his talent. I like the fit in Indy. And when he got drafted and started playing, all of a sudden I'm reading on the Dynasty sub, oh, he's Trent Richardson. He can't see. He's terrible. And
he has no eyes, Frank. Did you know Jonathan Taylor has no eyes?
Me and JT, I felt like we're the ones that just kind of kept a level head about it. I still had the same rating I had on him coming out. I still was not going to sell low. And now we've seen the flip side of things. He starts playing well. He gets a lot of carries. He has some good games. I'm still level-headed about it. I still have the same rating that I had on him coming out. I still have him slightly behind guys like Nick Chubb. And I just feel like the hype has just gone, and the roller coaster of Jonathan Taylor has just gotten so crazy. I feel like I'm the only one that's like, what the hell happened last night? Like, this guy went from being a consensus bust to a consensus stud in one season, in like half a season. It was ridiculous.
In like 5 games. It was 5 games.
Yeah, it's just I feel like I'm the only one that has been looking from outside of the box, being like, yeah, well, he's a good player, but I'm not going to draft him over Saquon. Like, let's just be realistic here. I understand Saquon has the injuries. I understand that, Jonathan Taylor looked really good, but just look at it from the level of prospects that they were. Saquon, generational talent. Jonathan Taylor, very good talent, not generational level. To me, I've seen them both succeed to the level that I thought that they were capable of. I've seen them both improve. I don't understand why all of a sudden Jonathan Taylor is consensus over Saquon and even reaching this height of McCaffrey. I just don't see it. Maybe I'm blind, maybe I'm the idiot, but I don't see it.
I mean, we don't have to spend that much time on him, but like, I kind of agree with you to a point where it's like, it's a false equivalency, right? But when Jake and I were on a podcast around Thanksgiving, we were talking about players to buy heading into a playoff push, right? And I said David Montgomery because I knew he was going to be playing like the Packers, and I think also, I forget who else they played. Yeah, Texans, who have terrible run defense, and I was like,
yeah, anyone that plays the Texans run defense had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. So
yeah, that's fine. The other thing we got to think about. Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry play the Texans twice.
That's where I'm getting at. That's where I'm getting at, right? Because like David Montgomery played those teams.
So conspiracy theory, basically, Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor are basically just David Montgomery if they had a better schedule.
And James Robinson too.
We're getting a little tinfoil. We're getting a little tinfoil hat, but yeah, I just think Jonathan Taylor had an incredibly easy end of the schedule where he played the Texans, the Jaguars. They had Steelers were a tough defense in the beginning of the year, but they lost their starting linebackers, so they had a much worse run defense at the end of the year.
We lost 8 starting linebackers. It felt like
you only have 3 starting linebackers, Frank.
We lost the safety that we converted to linebacker.
So. Don't get me wrong. I love Jonathan Taylor. He showed that he can actually catch the ball and vision isn't actually an issue, and he is a very good running back. But Keep Trade Cut has him in a tier with Christian McCaffrey, and when Christian McCaffrey is healthy, that man is just a cheat code. He's so different than Jonathan Taylor's never gonna put up 35. I mean, he did it one time against Jacksonville end of the season. But he's not typically going to put up 35 points like Christian McCaffrey is going to do week in, week out.
Christian McCaffrey averages 35 points. The dude is an actual cheat code.
We just got to pump the brakes on the rookies, I think, what we're getting at. I will caveat this with there are rookies that I am willing to go out and overpay for. I didn't do this, but someone in our league did go out, and what was considered at the time an overpay for A.J. Brown has proven to work out. And, someone like Justin Jefferson, that might be the same thing this year. Who knows? So you got to kind of find the happy medium. But, with the hype, when the hype is this crazy, it's tough for me to, send a lot of assets over for someone that's so hyped up. All right. How about the veteran running backs? What about us first consensus there?
So this surprised me actually a lot. We are 4 or 5 spots ahead of consensus on Ezekiel Elliott. So apparently we are more buying into the Ezekiel Elliott bounce back. I am very on and off with Ezekiel Elliott. I'm an owner of Ezekiel Elliott, and I've been looking to sell for a decent price, but I can't deny the fact that he could be a great buy for his price. If you can get him for, right now he's around a James Robinson. And James Robinson, while he's good, is nowhere near the talent level of Zeke. I understand that Zeke has a lot of red flags, and I buy into those red flags. It's just, the way that I ranked my running backs is I broke it out into hypothetical categories, tiers, and to me, Zeke fell into low-end RB1 with question marks. No, not low. RB1 with question marks, not low-end running back with major question marks. So, I hate this. I hate it. I hate being the guy that's oh, well, they didn't have the offensive line. Oh, well, they didn't have Dak Prescott. I personally feel like he's lost a step, but those factors do matter for him. I can see it, and there gets to a point where the guy is just being so battered by everyone that he could be a great buy, especially if you're a team that has that just wants to get that last push maybe of an aging roster. You give up your first round pick. It might only take a single contender first to get him at this point.
Yeah, I'm the one that was the lowest on us for the rankings. And I think I've prefaced this before and talked about Zeke a little bit, where, what Frank's basically saying, where, he was missing the line and everything. I'm kind of wary of buying into that talk. I am the lowest on Zeke, so I'm not necessarily willing to go out and buy Zeke. But if you are a believer in Zeke and you think he's going to even bounce back to be 75%, 80% is good, that's someone that could be a league winner. You could go out and if you're going out and you're spending pick 112, you're not getting a better running back than Zeke at 112. So automatically, I'd say that's a good deal, because there's unless Javonte Williams manages to fall all the way down there in Superflex, which I don't think he will by the time the actual rookie draft happens. Give me Zeke over any remaining running backs, and you could really probably make a solid league push to win your championship if Zeke's even 80% as good as what he was. So it's not a bad idea if you're a believer. Personally, though, I'm just not a believer. Jake, anything else you want to add?
I personally am of the belief that, Zeke will bounce back. I agree with Frank that I think he's lost a step. I don't think he'll ever be as good as we saw, 2 years ago when he was like running back 1 or running back 2 in a tier of his own with McCaffrey. But I think he does bounce back. I think he will be, a top 12 running back or running back 1 next year. And I think that alone warrants him being what we have him at. Consensus is our average is running back 12, which I think is very fair for a guy that has a lot of question marks, but the upside is so high also. So overall, I think we nailed that one in my opinion, and I think, like you said, he's worth that late end first round pick if for a contender.